If x equals 2 over 3y and y equals 18, what is the value of 2x minus 3? So to solve for this, we're going to need to use a lot of plug and chug. We are given the value of y as 18, so we can take that 18 and plug it in here. So x equals 2 over 3 times 18. And then when you simplify this part, you'll find that this is 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 18 6 times, 2 times 6 is 12. So x is 12. Now mind you, the question is not asking you to solve for x. As you can see, this exam is anticipating that someone's going to think that they've actually solved the problem and pick answer C, which of course would not be correct because the question is not to find what x is to find what 2x minus 3 is. So you want to be very careful to make sure that you're answering the right question. So let's go ahead and plug in 12 into this expression. It'll be 2 times 12 minus 3. So 24, take away 3, which ends up being 21. So the answer to this question is A. If 3r equals 18, what is the value of 6r plus 3? To solve this, we once again will need to figure out what r is, and once we have it, we plug it back into this expression to be able to complete this correctly. So 3r equals 18. To solve for r, you start off by dividing both sides by 3. Therefore, r equals 6. And again, if you're not careful, you would think that you're done because, of course, this 6 is featured as one of the answers. However, the question is not asking you to solve for r. You need to plug it back into this expression to find the correct answer. So 6 times 6 plus 3 gives you 36 plus 3. So the answer to this is 39. Why 6 times 6? Well, because r is 6, so we plug in 6 into r. That makes D the answer to this question. Kathy is a repair technician for a phone company. Each week, she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. The number of phones that she has left to fix at the end of each day can be estimated with the equation P equals 108 minus 23D, where P is the number of phones left and D is the number of days she has worked that week. What is the meaning of the value 108 in this equation? So the equation that we are focusing on is this one right here. So I'm going to write it down over here so we can see a little bit better. 108 minus 23D. And based on our previous lessons on linear functions, this is very reminiscent of something we've seen a lot of in the past, which is the linear function in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So you can see the similarity. This is basically the same thing as this. The slope, mx, is really this part, the negative 23d, and b, the y-intercept, is 108. So remember, we had a particular interest in the y-intercept because this was the starting point. So with that said, the question is asking, what does the 108 mean in that equation? It means that based on our definition of the slope-intercept form, that's the starting point. So let's look at the choices to see if any of them reflect anything about a starting point. So choice A, Kathy will complete the repairs in 108 days. Choice B, Kathy starts each week with 108 phones to fix. Starting point starts each week. So it's got to be B. A is out. Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per hour. No, rate is slope. So the slope here is actually negative 23, which means she's repairing 23 phones every day. And D is Kathy repairs phones at a rate of 108 per day. So again, the rate is not 108. So B would have to be it, starting point. If x minus 1 over 3 equals k, and k equals 3, what is the value of x? Once again, this is a two-step problem using plug and chug. We are given the value of k, so the first thing to do is to plug in this k in here. So x minus 1 over 3 equals 3. Now this question is asking us to solve for x, so once we solve for x, this will be it. So let's go ahead and try to isolate x. We have to get rid of this denominator 3, and to do that, you have to multiply by 3. If you do it on the left side of the equal, you have to do that same exact thing on the right side of that equal sign. So what happens is that these 3's cancel out. We are left with x minus 1 equals 9. And to solve for x, we simply need to add 1 to both sides. And what happens is those 1's are going to cancel. Therefore, x equals 10, making D the answer to this problem. Salim wants to purchase tickets from a vendor to watch a tennis match. The vendor charges a one-time service fee for processing the purchase of the tickets. The equation t equals 15n plus 12 represents the total amount t in dollars Salim will pay for n tickets. What does 12 represent in the equation? So once again, we are focusing on an equation. So this one right here, let's write it out so we can see it better. T equals 15n plus 12. And once again, this is very reminiscent of a linear function in slope-intercept form. So the question is, what does the 12 represent in this equation? If memory serves, you will remember that b is the y-intercept. But beyond that, it's the starting point. This person who's purchasing tickets, Salim, to watch a tennis match, will be paying $15 per something per ticket, and 12 must be some kind of like standard fee that you have to pay. So would it be the price of one ticket? No, 12 is not the price of one ticket. 15 is the price of one ticket, so A is not it. The price of the service fee in dollars, that could be it, because the service fee, you only pay the service fee one time. It's a one-time fee. So let's maybe keep B. Well, let's look at C. The total amount in dollars Salim will pay for one ticket. It's not true either. The price of one ticket, again, is $15. The total amount in dollars Salim will pay for any number of tickets, which is not true. So it's actually the amount of the service fee in dollars. You do pay a one-time service fee. So you have to pay the $12 and then $15 per ticket. That gives you the total price. So B would be the answer to that. Which of the following is an equation of line L in the xy plane above? So in this question, we're given a graph. So in this question, we're given a graph, and we are basically just looking for the equation that would give us that graph. And if you remember, once again, this is about linear functions, y equals mx plus b. I want to remind you that b stands for the y-intercept. So if you look at this graph, it's crossing the y-axis at 1. So we know that our equation has to have a plus 1 at the end of it. And if you glance over at all the choices that we have, only one of them has a plus 1 at the end of it. So D would have to be the answer. But just for the sake of finishing this problem and explaining the rest of it, just in case you see something that's not as obvious as this one, finding the slope is super easy given a graph. You literally just look for two consecutive points that are actually not cutting through a box, and just see how many steps you take to go from the first point, which is this one, to the second point, which is this one. And slope, as you recall, is rise over run. Slope is rise over run. So how many places do we rise? We go up one place and we run one place. So the slope is really 1 over 1, also known as 1. So that would be 1x. But we usually don't show a 1 if it's a coefficient. And that's why the answer is just y equals x plus 1, which we already knew, but just explaining how that works. D is the answer to this question. In the equation above, what is the value of x? This is a classic two-step equation where we just combine like terms on the left. So 3x plus x plus x plus x, these over here end up being 6x. And then we have the negative 3 minus 2, which becomes minus 5, equals 7 plus 2x, because x plus x is 2x on the right side. Next, we just want to combine the like terms, bring the x's on one side, so it would be wise to bring this 2x to the left side by subtracting it from both sides. And we are left with 4x minus 5 equals 7 because these cancel out. So we are a step closer. We just need to bring the 5 back to the right side because like terms have to be combined. And we can do that by adding 5 to both sides as shown. And then we have 4x equals 12. And to finish this off, just divide each side by 4, and you'll find that your x value is 3. And of course, this is a free response question, so make sure you are writing in the 3 on the grid, and of course, shading in the appropriate number, 3. The graph above shows the distance traveled, d, in feet, by a product on a conveyor belt m minutes after the product is placed on the belt. Which of the following equations correctly relates d and m? So here's another linear function, and just to belabor a point here, we know that linear functions in slope-intercept form look like this. Why did I think slope-intercept? Because all the choices are in slope-intercept form. So m stands for slope, right? Rise over run. And b is a starting point, right? So when you look at the equation given, we see that our y-intercept is 0, 0, right over here, right? So looking at our equations, this has a plus 2, this also has a plus 2. We know it can't be either of those because we're starting at 0, 0. That's the y-intercept. Now, to really finish this, we just need to figure out the slope. Remember, to find the slope, you just want to find 2 consecutive points that are nice. We can't go with this point here because that point is cutting through a box. Remember, a good point is one that actually cuts the box at the corners, not through a box. So those are 2 good points, and we can tell that we are rising 2 places and running 1 place, which means we rose 2, ran 1. 2 over 1 is simply 2, so the slope is 2. That means our equation is A because there's a slope, and it started at 0, so plus 0. We just don't bother showing the plus 0 for our y-intercept. And that will be the answer to this question. Which ordered pair xy satisfies the system of equations above? So with systems of equations, we have multiple options for solving, which are elimination, graphing, and last but not least is the substitution method. The way this question is written, substitution would be the best option. And thankfully, we've already isolated x for us, so we don't have to isolate x. All we need to do is take this y minus 3 and we plug it into this x. So it'll be y minus 3, because that's the given value of x, over 2 plus 2y equals 6. And we want to solve for, x and y, so we start off by figuring out y. Now, why don't we give this to y a denominator of 1? Because now we have 2 fractions being added. And remember, when you're adding fractions, you have to have a common denominator. So all we do is multiply this by 2, so we'll have a denominator of 2. If you do that to the denominator, you have to do that to the numerator as well. So what are we left with? Y minus 3 plus 4y. I'm just going to give these one big old denominator 2 because they share that. And that equals 6. So to continue this, we can combine the like terms from the numerator. We have y plus 4y, which is 5y minus 3 over 2 equals 6. And we are super close to getting y by itself. We just need to keep working. So the next step is to multiply each side by 2 as shown. Of course, these 2's are going to cancel. Well, let's move this up here where we have more room. So what's left is 5y minus 3 equals 12. And of course, our next step is just simply add 3 to both sides as shown. And these cancel, so 5y equals 15. And last but not least, we'll divide each side by 5, which means our y value is 3. So we could spend some time going back and figuring out what x is, but a time-saving strategy is to glance at the answers and see if you have any other choices where the y value is 3, and there's only one of those. So we know B has to be it because the y value there is 3. We don't have to waste time figuring out what x is. But let's say that we didn't know. Let's say there was another choice that had a y value of 3. So to find the x value is very simple. You literally take what you just found and you plug it back into one of these equations. Of course, go with the one that's easier because you're racing against the clock. So the top one is easy. So x equals 3 minus 3. X is 0. So our final answer really is 0, 3, which we already knew, but I'm just illustrating what you would do in case you needed to find both x and y. And that is if you couldn't eliminate one of the answers. X over y equals 6. For quantity y plus 1 equals x. If xy is a solution to the system of equations above, what is the value of y? Once again, the system of equations can be solved using one of 3 methods. This system is best set up for solving using the substitution method. Why do we know this? Because we have a variable that's already isolated. We know x is for quantity y plus 1. So we can literally take this and we can plug it in right here. So let's do that. We would have 4 y plus 1 over y equals 6. And since we want to solve for y, it need not be a denominator. That's bad. So what we want to do is multiply both sides by y, like so. So these y's cancel, and we can distribute this 4 in here. We end up with 4y plus 4 equals 6y. And to solve for y, we simply need to get the y's on the same side. So let's subtract 4y here and subtract 4y there because they're like terms. Those cancel, so we have 4 equals 2y. And last but not least, we simply divide each side by 2, which gives us an answer of y equals 2. And that makes A the answer to this question. Which of the following ordered pairs x, y satisfies the system of equations above? So this question is best set up to be solved with the elimination method. So let's copy it down here and actually use the elimination method to solve for this. All right, so in the elimination method, we have to get rid of either the x's or the y's. One of those has to go away. And as this question is written, if you added down, this doesn't cancel out, neither does that. So we would have to multiply one of these equations by some number to force it to cancel out. And I'm thinking if we just commit to getting the y's to cancel out, we would need a 2 right here. So to do that, we're going to have to multiply this entire top equation by positive 2. And then let's rewrite the resulting product. This would be 2x plus 2y equals 0. And we really don't need this top equation anymore. We're just focusing on these 2 now. And as you know, you add, so this becomes 5x. These of course cancel, which is what we were trying to do. And then 10 plus 0 is 10. So to solve for x, you simply divide each side by 5 as shown, and you end up with x equals 2. So once again, as a time-saving strategy, glance at the answers, see if there's more than one choice with 2 on the x value. There's only one, so B would be the answer. But in case you wanted to figure out what the y value is, you literally just take this 2 and you plug it back into one of the equations. So like that one. So you'd be negative 2 plus y. I'm sorry, I meant 2 plus y equals 0. So to solve for y, you would subtract 2 from both sides, and y would be negative 2, so the answer would be 2 comma negative 2. Jim has a rectangular shelf system that attaches to his shower head. The total height of the system is 18 inches, and there are 3 parallel shelves as shown above. What is the maximum height in inches of a shampoo bottle that can stand upright on the middle shelf? The height of this whole thing is given to us as 18, so we know the distance from here to here is 18. Now we are also told that these shelves are parallel, and what that means is we have a bunch of similar triangles here. So there are 3 triangles that I'm going to show you. First one is this little guy right here. Second one is this middle one right here. And the third is, of course, the big triangle right here. And all of those are similar. So this is a ratio kind of question, right? If you want to find the ratio of this middle triangle, this one right here, compare that to the big one, comparing that triangle to the big one, the ratio of that would be 5/6. And where does that come from, you ask? Well, the middle one would be 3x plus 2x, which is just 5x. And the big one is 6x. 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6. So the ratio of the middle to the biggest is 5/6. And the ratio of the smallest, let's use blue for this, the smallest, to the biggest one is 2/6, also known as 1/3. And last but not least, we can do maybe the small one to the middle one. Small one is 2, the middle one is 5, so the ratio of that would be 2/5. But the question here really is asking to find the maximum height of this bottle. Therefore, we only need to focus on the middle and the largest. So basically the blue triangle and this one over here. So once again, the ratio for the middle to the largest, or the biggest one, is 5/6. So 5/6 of the height given to us was 18. So we can do the math here and find that that's 15. The middle to the largest is 15. And then the smallest to the largest is 1/3. So what's 1/3 of 18? Happens to be 6. So you notice the difference between the largest and the smallest is what we need, the middle part right here. So we simply subtract these two, and 15 take away 6 is 9, so the maximum height would be 9. This is a really funky question. If 2x plus 8 equals 16, what is the value of x plus 4? Here comes another two-step equations that requires us to figure out what x is, and once we have x, we can simply plug in the value of x into this equation. So let's go for it. To solve for x, we need to subtract 8 from both sides as shown. So 2x equals 8. To finish this off, we just divide each side by 2, and x ends up being 4. Once you have 4 as your x value, you can take that and plug it in here. So we have 4 plus 4, which makes the answer to this question 8.